Hello, everyone. I'm Grace.
Hi, guys. I'm Lorea.
And we are the Indigos. We are so happy from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you so much to all those people that have tuned in and watched our last vlog, which was about girl talk, and we were discussing relationships, love relationships. So yeah, it's been great to have some feedback as well, and thanks to people who have started subscribing to our page. We are going to be consuming everyone with just open discussions, and we'd love you all to join in with our discussions. So today's topic, we're going to talk about forgiveness and why forgiveness is so vitally important for all of us to practice and to do, and in the right situation.
I agree. Forgiveness is really important because a lot of people don't realize that when you hold on to things, it really affects you internally. Sometimes the person that you don't forgive isn't even losing sleep, and you're up all night, or you're dealing with things within your heart. And I learned that a long time ago. My grandmother had told me I was upset because I had a problem with forgiveness at one point in my life, not necessarily with me, but with people. Like, we've wronged someone I've loved. And my grandmother said to me, when you forgive people, you don't forgive them for them. It's really an inside job. You forgive them for yourself. And that stuck with me. It's one of the hardest things to do, forgiving people and getting to a place where you're genuinely okay and you've released it. But it's so necessary because, again, you don't want to, you're trying to float through life and you don't want that baggage. And that becomes something in itself. Like, sometimes holding on to things that you really should release and let go, it just weighs you down. And I've seen so many people, just that haven't forgiven, and they've walked, and their energy, reads resentment, anger, frustration. A lot of things are birthed through not forgiving. And that's why it's so important to, cut the cord at its core, because it can turn into so many other things. What do you think, Grace?
Yeah, I think it's one of the most important virtues that we have as human beings is to forgive, and out of forgiveness comes compassion. Now, sometimes the things that have been most hurtful are the hardest to forgive, and that's always really a true testament of yourself in your ability to be able to rise above the hurt, the deep hurt, and forgive. And in practice, it's something that you have to really gain skills for, because you can be really angry at somebody for hurting you, and you can be really angry at a situation that you need to forgive someone for, but unless you practice it, you're just going to carry that stuff around with you, and it becomes intoxicating for you. It becomes like this, this horrible cell that consumes so much of your energy and weight, and it just weighs you right down. So it is really important. It's one of the hardest virtues to live by. I have had to practice a lot of this myself, and no doubt every single one of you have as well. But I'm learning bits and pieces of having good people around me on how to forgive in certain ways. So I'm an extremely overly compassionate person. So forgiveness for me comes quite easily, but sometimes it's been at the detriment of myself, and I haven't stood my ground properly to be able to forgive. So there's some situations where you have to really work out how to forgive in the right way, and in a way that really helps you as well. So, we were actually just talking about this and how to forgive and in what way to forgive. And, Lorea, as those people that know Lorea, personally know that she's very cutthroat, and we've spoken about this before, but it's been good for me. She's like, oh, hell no. So
That's true.
you better step, okay? I'm trying to do my best American impersonation.
Oh my gosh, that works out. It was okay. We'll take it.
So for me, it's kind of like, you know, I've had a situation which I spoke about last time with relationships, and there was a lot of forgiveness to, and there is still a lot of forgiveness to do for this particular relationship and this person, which I don't need to go into what it was and what it, you know, what it's meant for me to forgive. But in terms of allowing myself to forgive, and be able to not harbor on it, for me to be able to not let it consume me, I need to work out how to best manage the situation and not at the detriment of myself. So, you know, it's a different type of forgiveness for me this time. And there's many different forms of forgiveness as well. So, you know, in my way, I have to be really strong and say, actually, that's not okay to treat me like this. And for that reason, I actually am not going to participate in any kind of interaction, contact, or anything. So, and that's hard for me because that's kind of out of character for me. But yeah, you know, forgiveness is so vitally important. I actually think that it consumes so much of your energy that it's like a burden that you carry around, and anger that you harbor that eats away at you, and in fact is very, very bad for your energy levels as well.
Oh, I agree with you. One thing I've practiced with forgiveness, the first thing I had to do personally, because I was definitely that type of person where um, forgiveness didn't come easy to me. I thought that like cutting someone off, you know, dropping a friendship, relationship, whatever, was me letting it go. But I learned that there are emotions that live within that are inside of you that you have to acknowledge. For me, one thing I had to do when I was dealing with situations that may have hurt me, I had to first look at the situation, and I always had to identify where my ego was in it. And I say that in the sense of sometimes the ego can be so deeply ingrained within it that we don't recognize it. It can be something as small as I don't want to forgive them because how dare they do this to me because of the person I am. You know, even within that, there is ego. And for me, I had to learn to recognize my ego because I don't think it goes away. I think it's one of those things that everyone has that's part of like the earthly realm, but you have to learn to work with it and control it. And, you know, not ignore that it exists, even in very discrete situations where holding on to things, a lot of that bitterness, anger is really attached to the ego and not letting go. And for me, the easiest way to forgive was to understand where that other person is coming from, whether it's me accepting and forgiving that when someone knows better, they do better. So sometimes people hurt you just off of ignorance, lack of knowledge, lack of understanding. And that was the only way personally for me to fully heal in situations, were picking them apart and looking at them not just from where I was coming from and where my hurt was coming from, but how I played a part within the situation, whatever it was. And that helped me release um, feelings because I better understood what was happening as a whole, opposed to just my portion of it. And for me, that was my practice. I'm sure there's so many other ways, and I probably want to learn more because I want to master forgiveness at some point. But for me, that's where I've started with being really conscious and aware of knowing when I'm hurt that I might be holding on to something within my spirit, within my body, and, you know, recognizing where it's at, whether it's in my heart, in my mind, if it's attached to the ego, where it's at, so that I could focus on that and I could pray about that and I could ask for the universe, for God, for everything to help and assist releasing whatever I felt. And even praying for that person, because I do believe in that. That's something I did learn, that when you pray for something for 30 days, I've always seen two things to happen. Either whoever's praying, the person praying, will change within that because you focus 30 days on goodness towards the situation, or the person subconsciously will either call you, contact you, or change. A shift always happens when there's an intent behind it. So those things specifically helped me. I don't know, what was it for you, Grace? Like, what did you do? How do you deal with forgiveness? Is there a routine? Is there something that you do when taking
Yeah,
that on?
yeah, there is. It's similar to yours in the fact that it comes from compassion. So it comes from understanding why that person has done wrong by you. It comes from an understanding of dissecting and working out what has made that person hurt you. So it takes a lot of strength and a lot of courage to rise above your ego, to remove yourself away from your ego in order to be free to see it from somebody else's point of view of why they did do that. Now, it's not always a rational point of view, but in terms of you being able to have the compassion in your heart to be able to then, kind of dissect it and just go, okay, so how am I going to work through the motions of how to forgive this person? And the best way, I think, is by really understanding where that person comes from, why they made this mistake and why they have done wrong by you. And it takes a little while sometimes. Sometimes it's easier in certain situations, but sometimes it's really difficult and it takes a while to get to that point of understanding that, okay, I know where that person comes from and now I'm able to forgive and breathe and let it go. Don't hold on to it, because everyone does make mistakes. Everyone does, and that's only being human. And we need to learn from that. But in terms of, forgiveness, it comes from compassion. It comes from your soul recognizing another person's soul and removing your ego away from it and knowing that everybody makes mistakes and the circumstances in which they have done that, and try to understand where they've come from in terms of the hurt. But yeah, sometimes it's really big situations where they've done really hurtful things, and sometimes it's smaller things where it's easier to let go. I'm not a very what's the word? I'm not really like straight to the whole thing of like, a reaction. I'm not very reactionary, like, so I can actually
react. Yeah, you're not like reactive towards things. You're more analytical. You allow things to like sit. You steep in them.
Yeah. So when somebody says something, I really take it in. And if at the time they've been hurtful, I just kind of like might look at them and just be like in shock. And then I might just like, very different to you. I know that, Lorraine.
I'm laughing. Okay, I don't mean that's so funny. It's true though. So true.
It's so true about the two of us. We're so different in that regard. Her immediate reaction is like, oh, fuck you, kind of thing. Whereas me, it's like, excuse me. And then I sit back and I hold it and I just dissect it and I work it out. And then when it's time, I work it out with that person. Or it can be done through words, or it can also be done just with spirit. You don't always have to have the words in order to stand up and say, I forgive you. It's nice in the physical world sometimes to do that, but sometimes it's actually not needed and actually might be hurtful for you. So to protect yourself, in order to protect yourself, it's good to just step back and just put it out there in terms of your acknowledgement, your soul acknowledgement of forgiveness, and then just call it a day.
I agree. Both ways work so well. I agree. Maybe I should incorporate, add a little bit of Grace's philosophy to what I'm doing, so I can add a little more grace to it. Literally.
And I can add, oh yes, I like that. Add a little bit of grace to it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can add a little bit of the Larea fire and just be like, that's
I'll give you a little bit of hot sauce.
Me like that.
What'd you say?
I said, maybe I need to learn a little bit from you when things are really like explicitly wrong by me, and just be like, that's not okay. Instead of taking my time and stepping back and dissecting and all that kind of stuff, just standing up for myself and saying something there and then in that moment, I'm standing up and just going, that's not okay. And then I can walk away and then forgive them.
Exactly. Add a little hot sauce to the situation. That's what that is. Sometimes you got to
It
put a
is
little
a
hot
little bit
sauce.
of hot sauce. I should actually, because my cultural background, I should have a lot more hot sauce than I actually do, because I come from like a tribal background and a Viking background. So the mix should make me really fiery. But yeah, you have to push my buttons a number of times before I get to that point where I'm just like, you better step the fuck away.
Yeah, and that's when it gets crazy because it's all built up. So, you know, the
Yeah.
person walking, you know, the wrong person on the wrong day, then you become a time bomb, you know?
No,
That's what I have to work
it's
on. That's what,
actually, yeah, it is very true. What you're saying is very true. I shouldn't, my thing is I have to learn to not be so overly compassionate where it is at the detriment of myself. I really need to actually be more kind of assertive at the time when it does happen as well. So I've learned that, and I learn it, and it's great to have Lorea as my reflection of that reminder. Some of you might be more like Lorea out there that are watching this, and some of you might be more like me that are watching this as well. So it's good to have kind of two different points of view of innate human qualities that we both have, that we learn and reflect off one another to be better.
oh, absolutely. I think it's great that you and I incorporating those things. We will be more balanced in those things, you know? Maybe sometimes not every plate needs hot sauce, you know? So we're working
We
on
have
it.
to find our zen at all times. Our zen.
Just praying for my haters. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, it's true. All right. Now,
All
as
right.
we're
Well, we can wrap it up right now. So if you like any details about our live session that we will be running, we have to work out a date for that, where you can call in, and we've actually got a number of people that are interested already, so that's really exciting, because it's all about opening up a discussion of being more conscious people, being more aligned with good humans that can help one another grow, have different ideas of how to handle certain situations, like what we just explained about forgiveness. And we'd love for all of you to subscribe and partake in it, or just watch online, because you can actually watch it live while we're broadcasting, because it's not edited at all, which I probably should
yes.
do, because I just
No, no,
I just
no. We're going for the raw, organic. It just is. This is how we have conversations on a regular basis. And
yeah.
it's a beautiful way to have a dynamic. And, you know, being able to have that with your friends too, where you guys exchange ideas and, you know, like Grace was saying, how we deal with things, being able to talk it out where I can teach Grace something, Grace can teach me something, and it really helps with our lives. Like, you should have friendships that elevate you. And that was our entire idea, was to bring that type of mold, because sometimes people don't have that. And, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes they don't know how to have that and developing it. It's so beautiful. It's healthy. It's wonderful. And we all
Yeah.
need each other at the end of the day.
Yeah,
We
I
all.
actually got that same reflection from a friend of mine who's in Jamaica, who watched our video, and she said it's so great that you guys have different points of view and different ways of being, but together you're able to provide a space, an open space for other people who might not have the type of friendship that we have. But, you know, Lorraine and I have actually been personally calling out to our tribe, for people that are similar to come into our space. So it's been a while that we've been working on this, but, you know, so if you don't have friends that you feel like you can confide and be open with, we're here, and we're going to be running live streams, so you can definitely link up with us. And you know, because at the end of the day, we're all one love, one people.
Absolutely. So thank you
All right,
guys.
thank you very much. We'll see you
Adios.
next time.
Bye.